One night I ended up not paying the rent anymore and literally leaving with a rucksack and some instruments and thinking I'll just busk. I split up with a girlfriend, I was self-employed, I was unwell, and I was being stubborn and not asking for help and just trying to keep being self-employed. I was in and out of hospital with nowhere to go and being stuck in one town and reliant on busking to fund like my basic needs. People just would feel like they could insult you, or groups of blokes could like start taking the mickey and shouting at you or get aggressive needlessly. Like you don't deserve anything because you've ended up in this situation. And it's kind of human nature a bit, isn't it? I think when people don't understand something, it's easy just to kind of put up a wall. Oh, they're a smackhead, they're a drunk. I did see the good side of a lot of people coming up and being kind to me, but the seedy side of life you see, that definitely didn't help with me being homeless. So I took myself to this cave where I was as safe as I was going to be. And you go in and there's like a slope and you go out to the side and you can get back out. So you're sat on the edge of the cave. So you're like above where you'd go in, looking at the path. So you can hear anyone coming from this road. So you're quite as safe as you're going to be. And I did have small things that were positive happen that allowed me to kid myself I was still doing all right. And just the denial that I wasn't very well. I was very like suicidal, but I just didn't have any stability. I wanted to be independent still. That was the problem. I was like trying to muddle on and I was just kind of eventually living from like earning the money to get more like drugs basically. Ironically, I was always like dead against heroin, and I ended up, after they stopped the prescriptions for the prescription drugs, I then had quite sort of a year in and out of hospital on prescription level opiates like morphine. I was then fairly dependent, well, completely dependent on them to do everything, and I couldn't do anything. I couldn't look after myself anymore. I just ground to a halt. One piece at a time of like my self-respect, my dignity as a human being. Just I didn't feel like worth any of it, and I overdosed on drugs quite a few times. I was very isolated. I'd like wake up like 3 in the morning, feeling like very suicidal, and then taking drugs to kind of get through to when I could go busking again, and it was just a big cycle. I did have family close, but I kind of kept myself away from them because didn't really want them to see me like living like I was covered in like soot from having fires, and my self-care, like I had really long hair and a beard that was dreading into the hair and the beard. All I wanted was money. I knew the hurt I was putting her through, but it wasn't that I didn't care. I just knew that if I borrowed some money, I could get some drugs and it wouldn't hurt for that day. And it's so selfish. I was such a self-absorbed addict. I was just putting them through hell every day. I was at the point where people would give me money and say, "You're not going to spend this on drugs." I was going to spend it on drugs. I didn't have a choice. When I was younger, I used to be very like judgmental against people doing like heroin and stuff, and I didn't want to be a heroin addict. I didn't think I'd end up going to a chemist collecting methadone and doing all this stuff, but I ended up stuck in a situation where I was dependent on it. So all the people I kind of looked up to were all pretty messed up people, which didn't help, and I kind of didn't help myself by like romanticizing the chaotic kind of lifestyle a bit, and that also then made made my reliance on drugs even more for this sort of psychological side of it, because it's obviously easier to deal with all this stuff when you can't feel most of it. And that was a big part of getting clean, was having to deal with all this stuff that was like suppressed by drugs a year ago I was like 7 stone 6 when I first came here. I couldn't eat. I was just in a real mess. I needed to be taken out of society to get like clean and learn how to live again. It wasn't that I didn't want to look after myself. I just physically couldn't. When you can't eat and stuff, and your like self-worth is so low, the idea of even like brushing your teeth just seems like, why bother? As much as you want to do something about it, you need outside help and asking for help. So eventually I went to a doctor. Well, he asked me when my birthday was. I said, you're not going to get to that date on your birthday. So that was November just gone, so however many months ago. I'm quite stubborn, so if someone says I can't do something, I like to think I can. So I feel like I've slightly cheated that one. I'm like double the weight I was a year ago. It's taken me a year to get to the point where I'm at now, and there's still a lot of work to be done, but I have a great life now. I go and do, last 2 weeks ago I climbed Mount Snowdon. I do a lot of music still. I've just yesterday been doing some recording. I've got things to do with the radio. I've got loads of positive stuff, and it has just been doing it one day at a time to put it right, because I can't change it all at once. But I'm like 33, I can still do quite a lot of good stuff with my life. I just try and surround myself with people now that are doing the right things, and having some decent friends has been a big part of that.